YTPC, Padre coming to you via the virtual airwaves of YouTube saying, well, hey there, and happy Wednesday morning to you. If you're not watching this on Wednesday morning or Wednesday, whatever day, whatever time, I hope you're having a good one. I wanted to take to the virtual airwaves today just for a few brief minutes to offer a Wisdom Wednesday installment and then to share with you an article that I recently read, a very brief article that I think can supercharge your day, maybe your week, because I think it's just something we all need to hear. Whatever's going on, and there's so much going on right now in the world, there's so much going on in our lives. It's just, hey, some people are having a rough time of it. If you're not, good for you. But remember, a lot of people are really struggling right now. So anyway, it is Wednesday. I did this last Wednesday. I've done this before. There's a book in the Old Testament of the Bible called the Book of Proverbs. It is, it's an old book. It's filled with wisdom. In fact, it's part of a literary genre called wisdom literature. And there are 31 chapters to the book of Proverbs. And so one discipline that you can get yourself into is every day you read one chapter. And the chapters are short. They only take a couple of minutes to read, but they're chock filled with wisdom. And so on, the first day of the month, you would read chapter 1. Second day of the month, chapter 2. On the 10th day, chapter 10. You get how this goes. And today being August the 25th, I was going to read from I wanted to share a couple of verses from the 25th chapter of Proverbs, just because I think it's just worth hearing. The first is this. Verse 15 of chapter 25 says, "Through patience a ruler can be persuaded, and a gentle tongue can break a bone." Patience and a gentle tongue. We are so easily triggered these days. It seems our tempers are very, very short. And that's unfortunate, because I think for a lot of us, we end up being short-tempered and letting our tongues be a little too heavy. And it ends up hurting those that we love the most. They're the ones who bear the brunt of that. Let me repeat it. Through patience, a ruler can be persuaded. A ruler, someone important, in other words, even they can be persuaded if you're just patient with your talking to them. A gentle tongue can break a bone. That is the power of the tongue, to break. The tongue can both bless or curse. It's what we do with it. The other verse, well, it's two verses I wanted to share with you. They go back to back, verse 21 and verse 22 of Proverbs 25. "If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you." You ever heard the saying, "Kill them with kindness"? That's kind of where this comes from. If your enemy's hungry, give him food to eat. If he's thirsty, give him water to drink. Why? Because the scriptures tell us in doing so, you will actually heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you for it. God won't miss that you're being kind, even to your enemy. The other thing I wanted to share with you today, there's a guy out there, his name is Carey Nieuwhof. I hope I'm saying his name right. Anyway, he's one of multiple folks that I subscribe to, and he writes primarily to church leaders. He has a blog and he has a podcast and such. And very recently he published something. It's 5 quick little points that I think so many of us can benefit for. Now, again, remembering this is written for church leaders, I'm saying there's a universality to this. You don't have to be a church leader. You don't even have to be a believer to benefit from what I'm about to tell you. I really believe this can supercharge your life right now, because I think, again, we're all kind of going through some rough times. He begins this quick little article by saying, let me guess, you keep thinking it's going to get better, only to discover it hasn't, it ain't, it won't, right? We're all kind of stuck in this. He says that he talks to pastors regularly across churches. Again, he's writing to church leaders, but I think you can put this in perspective for your life and whatever your orbit is and such. One of the things that's frustrating with churches right now, he says, is that in-person attendance is still running 40 to 50% of what it used to be pre-pandemic. Online attendance has dropped. For a while that was the thing. Now people have even stopped doing that, unfortunately. He says people that churches have known and trusted for years have left. Volunteers don't want to serve like they used to. Many of them have just bailed out. So, that's just kind of the melee we find ourselves in right now. But he says this, he gives a wonderful quote from Winston Churchill. He says that Churchill said, "Moving from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm is the definition of success." Success is moving from failure to failure without losing your enthusiasm, that spirit that keeps you going. And so he gives 5 little points to help with that. Number 1, he says, grieve your losses. Grieve your losses. And he quotes one of his mentors, a guy named Terry Wardle. He says that Terry taught him in ministry that ministry is a series of ungrieved loss. And so it is in life. We're all going through stuff. There may be things that we're in denial. There's things that we just haven't had time to deal with or to grieve. He says, grieve your losses. It'll make your life better. It'll make the life for the folks around you better. Recognize it. Just take some time out and say, that's legit. I'm hurting from that. And he says this, and boy, this really spoke to me. He says, for driven people, and some of you can relate to this, you're the driven type. He says, for driven people, sadness often comes out as anger, irritation, or frustration. It doesn't come out as hurt. It doesn't come out as sadness. It comes out as anger, irritation, or frustration. And it's often that anger, that irritation, that frustration that we launch onto other people, or, as the old cliche says, anger turned inward is depression. Anger turned inward is depression. Point 1, grieve your losses. Point 2, stop imagining that everyone else is winning. Do you play that game in your head? Everybody else is doing better than me. Everyone else is winning. I'm the only one losing. He says this, you're not the weirdo. He says, stop imagining that everyone else is winning and you're not. You're not losing nearly as bad as you think. And they aren't winning as intensely as you think either. Stop imagining that everyone else is winning. Right? It's a game we get caught up in our head, and it can do a number on us. Point number 3 of the 5, he says, deal with your triggers. Deal with your triggers. Respond. Don't react. You realize there's a big difference between being responsive to any given situation and being reactive to it. He says the adage is easy to understand, but it's hard to do. Don't react. Respond. Don't be reactionary. Be responsive. Right? Reactionary is like, it's immediate. It's, I'm going to attach a whole bunch of emotion to it and such. I'm not even going to think about it. Whereas a response is, it's intentional, it's deliberate, because it's been thought through. It's been thought out. All the different avenues have been explored. The time has been taken. You don't necessarily have to immediately have an answer to everything that comes your way. So, respond, don't react. It's one of the ways you can deal with your triggers. Number 4 or 5, he says, find some small wins. This one really, really spoke to me. He says, never give up on your mission. Keep trying to make progress. And don't let the setbacks get in the way. Don't let them be the theme of what's going on. He says, you might even have, things going on in your work life that are setbacks for you, or at least you're seeing them that way, and they very legitimately could be. But what he says is, find the small victory somewhere. Even if you have to go outside of where you feel like you're not having the victory, and maybe it's at work, at home, maybe there's something you can do. He gives some very simple examples. He says, rearrange your bookshelf, mow your lawn, move some little project from start to finish. In other words, I've often told people this too, particularly when I was in clinical practice as a psychologist. I would tell them, make a list of things they need to do that day, because it feels good to cross things off that list. You feel like you're making progress, and that's what we need to do. The progress is in the small wins, right? You don't win the Super Bowl automatically. What do you have to do? You have to go through preseason first, where those games don't even count towards your record. And you have to win each game, or as many games along the way. And even winning those games, what do you have to do? You have to break it down by quarters, right? First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter. Sometimes it's even overtime. And even further, you have to break it down into offense, defense, special teams, coaching. It's the football analogy may not speak to everybody, but folks, find some small wins. And he says, and I think I might have read this, I'm going to read it again. I've found over and over again that small wins make a big difference. If you're not winning at work right now, don't give up, but try to win somewhere else. Clean out, that's where you came. Clean out your junk drawer, clean your desk, rearrange your bookshelf, mow your lawn, move some little project from start to finish. And finally, number 5, he says, craft a sustainable pace. He says there's fatigue that can come with leadership that's a little hard to describe. The adrenaline that you get through the first phase of a crisis gives way to the sustained drone of decision after decision, assault after assault, and disappointment after disappointment. A lot of leaders, he says, mistakenly look to time off to heal them. We'll tell ourselves, I'll be fine if I can get to my next day off, if I can get to the next vacation, if I can get to the next week at the beach, to Christmas, whatever the case may be. And he says, when the way you're living and leading isn't working, all the time off in the world won't fix it. So what does that mean? Well, it means you need to take care of yourself. You may need to build in some little breaks during the day, during the week. You may need to sit back and take inventory about what really is important to me. And why am I missing that in my life? And why am I missing that in my life? So what can I do to put that into my life if I know I need it? And these are kind of, big open-ended questions, because the answers are going to be different for me than they are for Phil from Briar Report, than they are for Eric, the blue-collar pipe smoker, whoever. These are all individuals. We all need to sort of step back, take a little bit of time to examine what's going on in our particular life and be able to answer that for ourselves. Craft a sustainable pace. How can I make the rhythm and pace of my life work for me rather than working against me? Folks, this is good material. Again, this is not mine. I've sort of embellished a little bit upon it today. Carey Nieuwhof is the guy's name. And again, he writes more specifically to church leaders, but I think that this, again, there's some universal truth to what he's speaking here that can talk to all of us, no matter where we are in our life, and what kind of world we live in, whether it's a church world or not. So anyway, hey, that's it for me today. Top of the morning to you. I know not everybody's watching this in the morning, but I've got the work day ahead of me, so I'm going to go ahead and get another cup of coffee going and sort of tackle the day. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're finding all the blessings that the Lord has in store for you. Till we're together again on the virtual airwaves, Padre, wishing you and yours God's peace, grace, and blessings.